Back in the day, for most of the 20th century and the first 15 or 20 years of the 21st century, you could count on CBC to show almost every key game of the NHL playoffs, and many times when the first round, be it a best of three, best of five, or best of seven, went long, you could see upwards of 12 to 14 games. But this year, for some obscure reason, and maybe CBC thought the Edmonton Oilers weren't going to make it to the third round. Uh, According to Globe and Mail, playoff hockey has seemed to be disappeared from CBC. According to a recent article in the GAAM, hockey fans in Canada hoping to watch the Edmonton Oilers move towards a berth in the Stanley Cup final this weekend won't be able to do so for free after CBC chose to not carry games 5 and 6 of the Western Conference Finals. The games will only be available to those who subscribe to Sportsnet, either through their cable service or directly from Rogers Sports and Media through the Sportsnet Plus app. Now, ironically, the Florida Rangers series has been shown. CBC's scheduled, and this was a terrible broadcast, by the way, a 1 hour broadcast at Canadian Screen Awards, one of the worst awards presentation in Canadian history, followed by a Just for Laughs special, beginning at 8 p.m. ET on Friday during a highly anticipated fifth matchup between the Oilers and Dallas Stars, won by Edmonton 3-1. Now, the teams had gone into the game with a series now at 2-2. The public broadcaster will air the season finale of the cross-country reality competition show Canada's Ultimate Challenge during Game 6 on Sunday evening. Now, CBC has carried playoff hockey broadcasts produced by Sportsnet ever since the Rogers Communication-owned specialty service struck a 12-year deal for national rights to NHL games beginning with the 2015 season. In an email to Globe and Mail, a CBC spokesperson indicated it was the public's broadcaster's decision to not carry Sportsnet's broadcast of the two contests. If the Oilers advance, again, it will be the first time winning the conference in 2006. We set our schedule long before the playoffs are determined, and that schedule includes Canada's Ultimate Challenge, which was held on Sunday nights from April 28th to June 2nd, as well as the Canadian Screen Awards Gala. It wasn't a gala, they only showed 1 hour. Of course, Chuck Thompson provided that press release. With that context, we knew there would be occasions during the playoffs when CBC would not be carrying certain games. Without access to CBC's audience, viewership will likely be significantly lower for the contests. A Sportsnet spokesperson declined to comment. Decision to air non-hockey programming during the playoffs is extremely unusual for CBC, which used to treat the season as sacrosanct when it owned the national NHL rights, much to the dismay of those in the network's news division, which had to contend with its flagship program, The National, being regularly rescheduled from April to June each year. In fact, the postseason have historically had such a claim on the national consciousness that when Queen Elizabeth II visited Ottawa on April 1682 to participate in ceremonies marking the proclamation of the Canadian Constitution, a 90-minute variety show at the National Arts Centre, airing live on CBTV, was scheduled to begin at the unusual hour of 6 p.m. to ensure the network was clear for the 7:35 p.m. start time of that evening's playoff game between the Nordiques and the Bruins. CBC confirmed its schedule to air all games in the Stanley Cup Final, regardless of which teams are in the series. This weekend's disappearance in the playoffs from the main CBC network isn't the first time this season viewers have hit roadblocks trying to access NHL broadcasts that have been able to watch free for decades. When the second round this year playoffs began in early May, viewers who tried to tune into the main CBC's TV network feed on a broadcaster's Gem app were served up a test pattern style screen explaining that rights limitations prevented the content from being live streamed. Viewers who discovered that he had been shut out from watching the playoffs without a Sportsnet subscription expressed outrage on social media. In a statement to the Globe and Mail, Sportsnet spokesperson Jason Jackson said, "We have an agreement with CBC that doesn't include Stanley Cup playoffs broadcasts on GEM." Thompson, the CBC spokesperson, told the Globe, Sportsnet and CBC entered a new agreement last fall that doesn't include Stanley Cup playoff broadcasts on GEM. In a follow-up email, he added, "Ultimately, it's a business decision, and through an agreeable negotiation with Sportsnet, we landed on which games will be carried on CBC and on which platforms." But you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, if you buy a book at Indigo, and it's 37 chapters, and you buy the book, but it's missing chapters 27 to 31. Why in the fuck would you read a book that was missing chapters? Okay, for people that watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm one of them, we used to go back between Sportsnet or when it was on TSN or CTV and different channels to see what was going on. I think CBC Hockey Night in Canada is sacrosanct. They should show every Canadian team that's still in it. You don't have to show Rangers in Florida. You should look at the schedule and say to yourself, who had the best option of making the Stanley Cup final? It was the Western Conference with Vancouver and Edmonton. So it's best to basically do your programming that is shown on the nights where the Eastern Conference might be skating. There was no guarantee that Toronto was going to make the second round, which he didn't. There was no guarantee Montreal was going to make the playoffs. They didn't. So I think basically what it is a bullshit explanation. Now, I don't know exactly if CBC is just scared to say they need Hockey Night in Canada when they put all their eggs in their basket, and we remember this, when they thought Toronto Maple Leafs would win the Stanley Cup, they basically stopped showing Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night, and boys, it came back to bite them, because in the 1993 season, when Montreal won the Cup, a lot of those games, the key games in the earlier season, were not broadcast, so the people couldn't familiarize themselves with the players. So I think what's going to happen here, Edmonton, after the win last night, 3-1, is pretty well going to make it the Stanley Cup final. And it'd be a lot more controversial if we're going to show the Stanley Cup final. But they're not that stupid. I think that basically what CBC is saying, we don't want to invest in sports that are not related to the Summer Olympics. They'll show track and field on an hour and a half and 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, which they've done for years. But they will rarely show a CBC Hockey Night in Canada game and in the afternoon. But the idea about this, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people don't have cable, okay? Maybe they have, digital antennas or whatever. You rely on the CBC. I know a lot of people don't want to access Sportsnet. That's still a paid channel for a lot of people. And if you don't have the right package, you're not getting all the games that you should be getting. Sportsnet was showing one playoff game on one channel and one playoff game on the other channel. So, like I said, it's not my decision, but it was a very stupid decision by CBC. And that Canadian Screen Awards, boys, that's one of the most putrid award shows. It seemed like the award show was in 2019, where you still had a kowtow to non-heterosexual creators. Like, it didn't really make any sense. And of course, you don't have separate awards anymore for best male actor or best female actor. It's all in one category. I don't believe in that, man. That's just pandering, right? I've been a movie reviewer for years. I like to recognize two categories, because sometimes you don't have enough men to fill out the category, and sometimes you don't have enough women. You got to have them separate, whether you like it or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a sports column. We'll leave that craziness to the Canadian Screen Awards behind. If you like what you're doing here, we're an informative podcast, especially in our U.S. Neighbors. And you notice ABC's not been showing any games as well, on the main network. So take it as you will. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good day, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.